Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with BKB CEO David Tetrault. Hey, that rhymes as well too. David, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure to be here in Miami ahead of another BKB card. What can we expect to see tuning into this weekend's action?
Oh, you are going to see the Night of Four Kings. We've got four championship fights, and it's just when you look at the top of that card with Gustavo Trujillo and against Brown, it's just going to be an amazing fight.
When it comes to, obviously, we've seen a lot of former professional boxing fighters step into the bare knuckle scene. That might not have been something that would be envisaged maybe a few years back. What's the difference? What's the momentum change in bare knuckle BKB specifically that's attracted fighters like Lucas Brown into the arena?
Well, the fact is the sport has just grown immensely with a much younger audience than kind of is in the boxing space at this time. Right now, the boxing audience has aged out, over the last 10 years. And in bare knuckle, we're attracting the Gen Z audience. And it's just created an amazing amount of buzz, through the social media standpoint. We're looking at major views on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, and all of that. And it has just popularized the sport with the younger audience. And it's also just the quickness of the sport. And when you put it up against traditional boxing that's going 12 rounds, and a lot of times, unfortunately, with the wrong fighters in the ring, it doesn't look as pretty, and people are really looking for action. And that's really what has popularized this, and it's attracted some of the greatest fighters out there. Lucas Brown, one of them.
So you're saying, is it action quicker, faster, and matchmaking better than what we usually see in the boxing sphere?
I wouldn't say necessarily the matchmaking, and there's a ton of great boxers out there, but I think the sport and the way in which it's not getting into the space of that younger generation, they're just not buying it. And I think the problem with boxing is that the superstars put on amazing fights. Like that fight last week with Conor Benn and Chris Eubanks, you can't ask for a better fight. And that was full action throughout the fight, right? But you don't get that from fight to fight in boxing. When you're looking at our fights, we do 10 fights typically per night. These are quick fights, and it's fast, and it's unbelievable action. And one of the things that's really great about BKB is that we have fighters from the US and we have a ton of fighters from the UK. And interestingly enough, the fighters in the UK are really from the boxing sphere, and the fighters in the US are really from the MMA sphere. And there's a very big difference in those styles of fights. When I'm at our fights in the UK, it's very stylistic from a boxing perspective. There's a real sweet science to it. There's not as much clenching. Here in the US, the MMA fighters, it's great fights, it's great actions, but there's more clenching, and they're fighting a different style. So what we're trying to do, even in some of our matchups tomorrow, is have, a UK versus a US fighter. And it's really changing things, and it's catching fire in the UK and also in the US.
I've got to ask myself a question because I am from the UK. What are your dates coming up in the UK? I believe you're in Cardiff soon, and there's a date also in the new year. What can we expect to see from those cards coming up?
Yeah, so in Cardiff, we're going to be there December 5th. And we've got some great fights and some great matchups on that card. And then February 21st, we're going to be in London at the O2 at the Indigo Theatre. And we're just putting together the final touches of what we're going to be doing there. But what I can tell you for the new year, we're in talks with some very prolific boxers. And we're probably going to sign them. And there's going to be some major announcements soon.
Can you dangle that carrot a little bit further and tell me any information on those prolific fighters that you're talking to?
I can't at the moment because it could end up distorting kind of some of those negotiations. But what I'm saying is these are fighters that have sold out arenas in London and in Manchester in the past.
I also heard in the press conference conversation with Gareth A. Davis mention about an innovative new technology where you can tap into kind of the fights a little bit more closer as a member of the audience. What can you shed some more light on what that is?
Yeah. So we just carved out a new exclusive partnership with the Bally's organization. Okay. And with that partnership, it's a 360. So we have distribution on their networks. We have staging of our fights in their casinos worldwide, both in the U.S., in the UK, and also into Australia, and they're acquiring casinos at a pretty rapid rate. And then coupled with that, they have their own technology. So they have this technology that goes into sensors that go into the wrist wraps, and they track punches. They track the data of those punches, the velocity, G-force, what type of punch, right hook, left overhead, whatever it is, they're tracking all of that and they're gamifying it. So when you're watching the fight in arena, you will see some of those stats up on our LED screens, and then also you'll see that into the TV screens as you're watching at home. It'll allow for prop betting and all kinds of opportunities. Yeah, so we kick off that new exclusive series with Bally's on January 9th in Biloxi at the Hard Rock Casino that they own.
Looking forward to that coming out. Another selfish question for myself. I've got James Kennelly, who trains at the gym I train in Birmingham, and McCracken's gym. A little nod to them. And Spencer McCracken is a Hall of Fame trainer as well in bare knuckle. What next for James Kennelly? When is he next out in bare knuckle?
Well, look, we've put together some dates already. So we've got the London date firmed up, and we've got some Manchester dates firmed up. He's definitely on the list for either February or soon thereafter. Yeah.
I know that he wants another shot at LT. Can that be arranged?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, as soon as LT recovers from his broken collarbone, that could be out there, 100%.
Informed, of course, moving into the boxing conversation, you did had a long, extensive kind of partnership with Ryan Garcia, bringing him into the DAZN sphere. Ryan Garcia is looking to take on Mario Barrios.
Yes.
Do you think he comes up with his hand raised against Barrios for the world title?
I do. I mean, look, I've known Ryan Garcia since he was 18 years old when we signed him at Golden Boy. He's a hell of a fighter, one hell of a fighter. I mean, what he did against Haney last year was utterly amazing. He will come out of that fight with a knockout. I see it inside 8 rounds.
What is it about Ryan that sometimes he might blow a little bit hot and cold? What does he need to make sure that he's hot all the time?
The thing is Ryan's a very generous and creative person, and he has a lot of people in his camp that can at times get into his ear a little bit. And I think that when you look at Ryan right now and you kind of see where he is right now, he's kind of grown into the man that he needs to be, with his career being as explosive as it can be in the future. I think he sees all of that. And you got to understand that he hit fame at a very young age, right? When you have fame and fortune at a very young age and your frontal part of your brain is still developing, some of the realities aren't the same as they are for, people as they really are growing up and going through trials and tribulation. He was a very famous person very early. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about this some short miles away? We had the press conference for Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua, however you want to shake it up. But Lucas described it as a bit of a circus. Do you feel the same way, or do you think it's entertainment, wrapped up in sport and something for everyone?
I think number one, it's going to be highly entertaining. I do give Jake Paul absolute credit for being willing to step into the ring with such a prolific champion and fighter.
Forget credit. Do you give him a chance?
You know what? I do give him a fighter's chance, a puncher's chance. I mean, he's come a long way as a boxer, and we'll see. But I do give him a chance. But look, the odds are that it's going to be a tough fight for him.
When you say you give Jake Paul a chance, when I speak to American media, they kind of feel that Anthony Joshua, because what they saw him take against Andy Ruiz, he might be a little bit suspect. He might be a little bit chinny on the chops, as they might say in the UK. Do you feel that way? Do you see that avenue for Jake Paul to beat Anthony Joshua?
Look, I think that was, it was a great punch that night, and it landed. But I think, Anthony, proved himself again against Andy, and Andy's a hell of a fighter. I'd love to see them get into the ring again. You never know. But I think, Andy's a much different fighter than Jake Paul.
I was just saying as well, too, from a UK perspective, the Furies, whether it be Huey or Tyson, it seems like the space that they'd eventually come into bare knuckle, given their fight experience, given their upbringing and what they went through to get experience in the fight game. Do you think you could get the Furies into bare knuckle in a few years' time?
We would love but I don't think he's quite ready for it. There's talks that he may still come back to boxing. But we would love to get him or Tommy in. They would be great for the sport.
What was that conversation like with Tyson?
There was a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest. But, it's all about timing. It's all about timing, and he still has some business to do in the boxing world.
Bare knuckle space is a fierce and competitive space. What do you do? You talked about gamifying the new partnership you have with Bally's, but in 5 years, 10 years, how do you cement BKB as the number one place for bare knuckle boxing?
Well, I mean, the first thing is it's with our fighters. Our best assets are our fighters. We have over 200 fighters, and it's a worldwide roster, and we're cultivating that roster in a hell of a way. We have a beautiful belt in the Police Gazette belt, which is our championship belt, and we take it very serious. We've recently done an amazing partnership with BoxRec, where we're partnering with them, where they are ranking fighters in bare knuckle, whatever league they may be from, at a very high level. So we're partners with them, and we're willing to put our champions up against champions in the other leagues that are out there. But it kind of comes down to whether or not they're willing to do the same. But we do believe not only with the way that we are delivering the sport from a distribution standpoint, from a partnership standpoint, the people that we're working with, the assets in our stable that we are right now, we are the number one bare knuckle company in the world, and we're going to continue to be so. And we're going to have more exposure into the living rooms of fans around the world. And as that grows, you'll see who's on top.
How often does that willingness come together? Because in boxing, you used to have PBC in Top Rank, and you weren't able to cross the divide, cross the side of the street. Matchroom and Queensbury weren't. They were at loggerheads before the introduction of Riyadh season and such. How often do those politics come into play in this sphere as well too? How do you overcome that?
Well, you know what? The thing is, I'd say right now, in fairness, the conversations haven't taken place. I'm saying it right now, and I've said it before. We are willing to sit down with the other organizations that are out there. We're already in deep talks with the IBA about some of their fighters, and we're probably going to stage something with them in 2026 where it is BKB versus IBA. But the other organizations that are out there, we're willing to have those conversations.
Looking forward to that happening. Looking forward to this card as well too, and future cards as well in the UK or otherwise. David, pleasure. Thank you so much for the conversation. Speak again soon, sir.
Really appreciate it.